A Mind Flayer Tadpole gone dreadfully wrong. Massive, slimy, purple, and ready to devour. The Neothelid is what you get when you combine the raw power of the legendary purple worm with the alien biology of the Illithid, creating an abhorrent psychic aberration that will stop at nothing on its journey to consume. While having nothing to do with the purple worm, the resemblance between these creatures is striking, with many an Underdark hunter accidentally mistaking the Neothelid for a purple worm, only to realise how wrong they are, as a shower of acidic slime breath hails down upon them in confirmation. The Neothelid is an incredibly rare and equally dangerous monster that have their roots firmly buried within the Illithid family tree. These bizarre creatures come into being only under extreme circumstances. More often than not, Neothelid are spawned as a result of a Mind Flayer colony being utterly decimated by a source that fails to finish the job in killing any and all tadpoles left behind after the destruction of an elder brain. This is a monstrous oversight and can have devastating consequences. While they look mostly harmless, Illithid tadpoles left alive after their elder brain has been killed become feral. Losing their psychic connection to the colony, they go on a tiny leech-powered rampage and compete with the other remaining tadpoles, killing and consuming each other until only one remains. This survivor will have likely grown to be around the size of the average dog and will have developed an appetite that drives it forward with the goal of growing even larger. At this stage, the engorged tadpole does not think about anything other than food and will likely slink off into the Underdark or surrounding area to kill anything its size makes it capable of bringing down, such as rats and other such critters. Once this point is reached, the tadpole is officially considered Neothelid by Mind Flayer society, but the full transformation has yet to be completed. Even at this early stage in its life, the Neothelid is a creature that is absolutely abhorred by Illithids, as they understand the sheer danger that these things pose. Neothelid do not recognize themselves as Illithid and consider Mind Flayers as much a source of food as any other sentient being they happen across. A fully grown Neothelid that detects a still living elder brain is incredibly likely to forget all about everything else and head directly to the source of the incredible intelligence that it can detect, fighting its way to the brain, decimating swathes of Illithid as it worms its single-minded way toward its goal. So before we get too carried away, let's jump back a few steps. It does still take some time for a newly established Neothelid to reach the power levels required to take on an elder brain. The champion of one of the aforementioned tadpole battle royales will continue to hunt and eat, growing larger and larger by the day at an incredibly rapid pace. It even gets to the point where they grow to such an enormous size that they can no longer navigate through standard-sized caverns, becoming reliant on the pre-existing megatunnels that have been excavated by their purple worm lookalikes. This is because, as sturdy and large as the Neothelid are, they are still incapable of burrowing through solid rock and stone. This leaves their only real option being to follow the trails left by purple worms and other large excavators that exist wherever they find themselves. The final stage of the Neothelid's evolution occurs when the monster consumes the brain of a sentient being. This connects the neurons in the gargantuan tadpole's brain like the ignition of fireworks, and in a single moment, the Neothelid gains a shred of self-awareness and unlocks a host of previously dormant psionic power. Now, while it may seem that this creature has transcended back to the levels of its Mind Flayer kin, that is not entirely the case, as the Neothelid remains devoid of the ability to think critically, having only inherited the desire to consume more brains, which are now more accessible than ever, considering it is in control of a gargantuan, 120-foot or 35-meter long powerhouse of a body. At this point, the aberration is now a fully developed Neothelid, form and mind, and this is where we derive its stat block and capabilities from, and this thing is no pushover. With 27 strength, 7 dexterity, 21 constitution, 3 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 12 charisma, the Neothelid is stacked out where you would expect it to be, falling short in brain power and mobility. While it doesn't benefit from any specific kinds of damage resistance or immunity, it does have a general magic resistance, which grants the Neothelid advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. It also has some strong saving throw proficiencies, with a +1 for intelligence, a massive saving grace when compared to its innate -4 intelligence modifier, +8 for wisdom, and +6 for charisma. On top of this, the monster also has blind sight up to 120 feet, but but it is completely blind to anything past this point. On the abilities front, the Neothelid's psionic presence grants it access to creature sense, which allows it to be aware of the presence of creatures within 1 mile of itself that have an intelligence of at least 4 or higher. It knows the exact whereabouts of these creatures, as well as the target's intelligence score, but can't detect anything else about it. A creature protected by a mind blank spell, non-detection spell, or similar magic cannot be traced in this manner. The Neothelid has access to a range of psionic-based spells, with it having the ability to cast Levitate at will, and having the capability to cast Confusion, Feeble Mind, and Telekinesis, each once per day. At its core, the Neothelid is a voracious hunter that prizes targets with the most knowledge-filled brains. In combat, the Neothelid will target the creature with the highest intelligence it can detect, often making spellcasters the primary focus of the ravenous aberration. If it is able to get the jump on its quarry, the Neothelid is likely to begin with one of its psionic spells, targeting a clustered group with Confusion, or pulling a prized single target toward it with Telekinesis. A hunting Neothelid is unlikely to jump straight into using Feeble Mind, as this spell is specifically designed to shatter the intelligence and personality of a creature. While the Neothelid lacks the intelligence to know this, its natural predatory instinct will instruct it against ruining a high-value meal in such a manner, meaning that Feeble Mind will most likely be called upon in a high-pressure situation, in which the Neothelid becomes more focused on escape than food. That being said, once the Neothelid has made use of its initial psionics, it will look to close a gap as quickly as possible, and upon making it within 60 feet of its primary target, it will unleash its secret weapon, a cone of flesh-melting, bone-dissolving acid breath. The Neothelid exhales acid in a 60-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 18 dexterity saving throw, taking 35 or 10d6 acid damage on a failed save, or half as much on a success. This attack recharges on a d6 roll of 5 or 6, and will be utilised by the Neothelid whenever it gets the opportunity. It's worth noting that while the Neothelid is self-aware to an extent, it does not have the intellectual capabilities to work out the perfect angles for these attacks, instead focusing down on its primary target, making their lives hell. This means that even though the acidic breath is targeted within a cone, the Neothelid will make sure to guarantee a hit on its primary target, with any extra afflicted targets likely being unintentional bonuses. This acid has evolved alongside the Neothelid's biology, and as a result, will not melt through brain tissue, instead leaving the succulent cerebrum completely intact, for the Neothelid to slurp up once combat concludes. Following this, the Neothelid will lash out with its voracious mouth tentacles, which have a 15-foot reach, a plus 13 to hit, and deal 21 or 3d8 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, plus 11 or 2d10 psychic damage on a hit, for an average of 32 damage total. A large or smaller creature that is hit by this attack must make a DC 18 strength saving throw, or be swallowed by the Neothelid. A swallowed creature is blinded and restrained. It has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Neothelid, and it takes 21 or 6d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Neothelid's turns. If the colossal tadpole takes 30 damage or more on a single turn from a creature inside it, the Neothelid must succeed on a DC 18 Constitution saving throw at the end of that turn, or regurgitate all swallowed creatures, which fall prone in a space within 10 feet of the monster. If the Neothelid dies, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it, and can escape from the corpse by using 20 feet of its movement, exiting prone. Once again, just as a quick reminder, the Neothelid will target the creature that it perceives to have the highest intelligence amongst a group, making use of its creature sense to achieve this knowledge. A cunning party hunting a Neothelid could use the non-detection spell on their intelligence-based spellcasters, making a more tanky target appear as the most succulent source of sustenance for a Neothelid, only to turn the tables on the aberration when the fight begins. But under what circumstances might you encounter a Neothelid? Well, having recently destroyed a Mind Flayer colony, a group of adventurers could have considered the job done with the slaying of an Elder Brain, only to neglect the pools of tadpoles left behind, expecting them to die off, without the brain to provide them with food, nutrients, and protection. Now, as we all well know, this isn't exactly what happens, and over the course of several years, a tadpole could ascend into a Neothelid, hiding itself within the Underdark, preying on unsuspecting travelers. Those who survive these attacks could then tell tales of a magically enhanced purple worm lurking in the dark. A bounty is then placed upon this creature, and your party sign up for the task, unaware of the true horror that awaits. A cluster of Alhoon could have stolen away a collection of tadpoles upon their escape from a colony, with the intention of breeding their own Neothelids to take down their now swarm mortal Illithid enemies. This of course is unlikely to go down well, and the crafty conjurers could release their secret weapon just as your party is making it into the bowels of an Illithid hive yourselves, adding further complications to an already difficult enough job. Or perhaps you find yourselves in the situation where a terrifying dragon is ruling over your lands with an iron fist, and you decide that maybe fighting fire with a slimy, acid-breathing brainworm is your best bet. Your party plan on raiding an Illithid colony, creating your own Neothelid, and using the beast's hunger for intellect to pit it against the dragon, weakening the tyrant, and allowing your group to swoop in and take the glory for yourselves. However you choose to do it, the Neothelid is a massive, creeping horror that can melt skin from bone and track its unknowing targets to a pinpoint. Its unnerving, bestial nature, coupled with its size, strength, flailing mouth tentacles, and psionic abilities, make the Neothelid a memorable foe that will capture your players' imaginations in the most nightmarish of ways. Just hope it doesn't consume their brains in the process. Hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching this video. The response on my recent content has been incredible, and I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone for watching and supporting the channel. As always, if you like what you saw, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me that you're all out there enjoying these videos, and my aim is to continue to make many, many more. Now, while you wait for the next one, perhaps a look at the much more calculating dragon turtle is what you need as a palate cleanser. Or maybe you just want to double down on the terror with a dose of Dark Sun danger from the Nightmare Beast.